Foundation. Just quickly, what's new in Foundation 6? The file size is quite a bit smaller than Foundation 5. It's been cut by 50%, so the CSS has been cut by 60%, and the JavaScript was cut by about 40%. And so that means, when you balance that out, it's about 50% lighter. So that's huge because we don't want the framework to be something that slows your page load down, and it's not. It's usually other things like image and other optimizations that need to be done. Accessibility hooks are built in to all the components, and so some of the CSS components will have actual markup in them that have accessibility built in, and then the JavaScript will have JavaScript that controls that accessibility, like keyboard navigation, things like that. We have a bunch of new nav patterns. In fact, one menu component can make 5-6 different types of navigations, which in Foundation 5 was constrained to 1 or 2 different kinds. So you have a lot more flexibility there. The Sass is even easier now. So that's the next hour. Tim will be talking about how to change breakpoints and how to use the Sass maps to customize your buttons, things like that. It's a lot easier in Foundation 6. And then there's a whole load of JavaScript utilities that we use. They're public utilities we use to build the components like accordions and dropdowns, things like that. And there's utilities that you can actually use separately from those components to build your own components. So you don't have to write, let's say, a plugin that calculates the height of a box, things like that. So we're going to get started with installing Foundation. Now, you can download Foundation CSS, but this is the advanced class. So we're going to go into talking about the Sass version. Now, there's a few different ways to install the Sass version. The Foundation CLI is the recommended way to get started with Sass. So CLI is a command line interface that we created to basically make it easy to scaffold an entire project, install all the resources necessary, and it will also control updating as well. And then you can also do it manually from GitHub, which I'll show you. And you can also use package managers like npm, Bower, Meteor, Composer, NuGet. So NuGet is another great one, if you are on Windows and in that environment. So before we jump ahead, let's take a look at an example here. So there's instructions on how to install the CLI in the documentation, but the reason this is a really good way to get started with your project is it basically takes you through the options that you need to, that you might want to look at. So you type in Foundation new in the CLI, and then you can choose the type of project. So we're talking about Foundation for Sites here, so we're going to choose Foundation for Sites, but you can also create an email as well. So we'll go ahead and choose Foundation for Sites, name our project, and then from here we can choose the basic template and the Sass compiler. So the difference here is if you just want to use Sass and you don't need all the build tools that come with the Zurb stack, you have your own build system, or you just want something really simple that you can use with Sass, the basic template is the way to go. And the reason they're called they're not actually like a template, like a website template. It's a build template. So that's why it's called a template. We actually prefer calling the Zurb template the Zurb stack because it is resembling a full development stack. So Zurb template is what we'll choose today. And if we hit enter, you see that the system kicks off and starts making this project for you. Now this takes several minutes, so we're not going to sit through that, but it's basically going to npm and installing all the packages, which we'll cover here in just a moment. Let me just show you another way to install that we mentioned before. So this is also important. So if I was to go to GitHub, and let's go to foundation-sass zerb-template. So github.com/zerb/foundation zerb template. This is where the actual zerb stack is kept, the repository. This is up to date with the latest version. So all you need to do is npm install. Let's see. This is the command. You would clone this project. So there's actually the URL is all set up here. So you would actually just copy this. Instead of project name, you would actually name your project and then run that. And then once you run that, you would cd into your new project, change directory into that new project, and then you would run npm install and bower install on it. And what that does will install all the dependencies. So that's another way to get started with this if you don't want to install the CLI. Although CLI obviously makes it easy because it does that install, the bower install and the npm install for you. And if you want the regular, the basic template with just the Sass compiler, that's the Foundation Sites template. So you just change the URL to Foundation Sites template, and it's the same thing, but it's just the Sass compiler. Cool.